not an altar, thy love the flame. The patience of unanswered prayer. The dimness of the soul removed. It is good once again to gather in the quietness. And to center down in stillness. The streets of our minds are so filled with traffic. Our spirits are so crowded with conflicting noises that it is wonderful to be quiet. And to see if in the quietness we cannot sense some order in our lives, some specific sense of direction. Something that will tend to structure our confusion so that we may understand its character. In the quietness we may look at ourselves, the kinds of people we are. What are the kinds of things that we are doing, and why are we doing them? What is the whole point of our functioning? Where are we trying to go? What is it that we are meaning by what we do, and what is the point of our kind of living? Where do we put the emphasis in our lives? Or each may make it very personal. Where do I put the emphasis in my life? What am I after? Where are my values placed? To what end am I making my peculiar kind of sacrifice? What is it that I love most in life? What is it that I despise most in life? To what am I true? And why am I true to it? Who am I anyway? Who am I, and what am I doing? And as we listen is all we get? The jangling echo of our own confusion and chaos? Or is there something more? Some deeper note that we have not heard before because we have not been still enough to listen? To listen. Until all the sounds are defined. To listen. Until we are quiet enough to hear the whisper in the heart. And what does it say to us? What does it say? Spirit of God, descend upon our hearts. Wean it from us. Through all its pulses move. Amen. Before I begin our sermon this morning, I'd like to make a statement, and it really doesn't apply to those who are involved this morning, because I'm sure that we called your attention last Sunday, and eventually what appears as the sermon topic and what the preacher talks about will get together. This last Sunday, you will recall, we thought together about the teaching, the parables which have to do with the lost coin and the lost sheep, parables which indicated somewhat the mind of Jesus in an effort to answer to his own satisfaction and to the satisfaction of his hearers the question as to what is God like, and also an effort on his part to deal with the meaning of the relationship of the human spirit to God, which is, after all, the fundamental point of all religion. For the religious endeavor of the human spirit is to underwrite the significance of salvation. However it may be defined, that is its point. And the story with which we have to do this morning is a familiar one. Simply told, it is the story of a boy who was younger, and a boy who was older, and a father. A family, but a family in which the mother does not appear. It's very interesting. The boy, who was young, said to his father, "Give me what is coming to me now, so that I can go away. I want to try my wings." And his father gave him what was coming to him, and he went away. And Jesus puts a very interesting touch. He went into a far country, and there he met many friends. Friends who liked his personality, liked his way with money, and they enjoyed him thoroughly, as to his surplus. And then he gave out of money. That is perfectly natural in time. And he looked for his friends who had enjoyed his money, and he thought they were enjoying him, and he looked for them, and he found them not. But he had to eat. And it's interesting that when his hunger became sufficiently great, he was willing to pay almost any price as to his pride, as to his self-respect, in order that he might get food. So he went to hire himself out to a man as a keeper of his hogs, which is a consummate touch of genius on the part of Jesus. That this man who was a Jewish man, as to his faith, as Jesus was, and he was so far beyond the reach of the climate that sustained him, that he, in his desperation, became a herder of hogs and a feeder of hogs. And not only that, but he ate some of the food that he was feeding the hogs. And while he was in that state, it occurred to him that he was his father's son. He'd forgotten that. He was his father's son. And so he said, I will go to my father, and I will not let my pride stand in the way. I'll just tell him what I have been doing, the kind of person I am, and tell him I don't want to be his son anymore, but I want to be as one of the hired servants, because it is better to be a hired servant of my father than to be in the far country, stranded and alone, or surrounded by sunshine friends. But his father saw him coming and ran out to meet him, so that the boy didn't have a chance to say, Father, so-and-so and so-and-so and so, make me as one of the hired servants. The only thing that the boy had a chance to say was, I'm so sorry. And I realize now that I didn't do this against anyone but against you and against myself, really. His father fell on his neck and kissed him. He was so glad to see him. that in that swirling moment of heightened ecstasy, he said to his servants, get the special garment, kill the fatted calf, wash him and bring him in here so that he can know that he is at the center of my heart where he's been all the time. And then the older boy came home, and he heard all of this. And he said, I wonder what's going on. And he listened, and he said, oh, yes, he's back. I knew he was coming back. He didn't say, gee, how wonderful it is that he's back, and now a smile will be on my father's face again. No. All the time he was away, having a good time, I was right here working. It seems as if the way to win your spurs with my father is to go off and throw things away. And then you get the central place. But if you stay and work, then you get no credit for it. And his rumbling was so significant that he spoke to his father, and he said, I've been here all the time. You've never had a party for me. You've never said, kill the fatted calf. And the father said, everything that I have is yours, my boy. But can't you understand? Can't you feel your way into some sensitiveness as to what is taking place in me and in your brother? He was lost. And now he's found. Can you understand what that is? Now I can die in peace because I have seen my child again. Now that's the story, simple story. And I don't want to take the time and make it all complex and complicated. But I have three things I want to say about it. And the first is merely to state what it seems to me the teaching says in the context and in the spirit of Jesus. The teaching says that God is like that father, and that anybody may be like the prodigal son, and anybody may be like the older brother. We all stand in that relationship, the family relationship with God. And you're lost if you are out of primary fellowship with God, whatever else you may have. And you may be out of primary fellowship with God without ever going away from home. For the older boy didn't ever go away from home. He was out of fellowship nevertheless. Be careful then how you live, for you're lost if you're out of fellowship with God. Now that's what he's saying. And any time you start moving in that direction, the first thing that you discover is that all the time God has been moving towards you. Now that's the story. That's all there is to it. But it's a great deal. Now, we will move to part two Now, the first thing in part two is this. And one of the things that stirred in my mind, it always stirs in my mind as I read it, because it is profoundly puzzling to me, and it's a part of experience, but I don't quite know altogether what it means. But the fact that in the story that Jesus tells, that there seems to be a relationship between what is going on in the external environment, or in the environment in which we are living, and what is going on inside of us. Now, this is the thing that suggested to my mind that the famine that the boy experienced in the far country was a part also of the famine that he was experiencing inside himself. I'm constantly puzzled and disturbed by the way in which we seem to surround ourselves with the kind of environment or aura or climate that seems to be a reflection of the kind of thing that is going on inside of us. Now, without seeming to be superstitious, but I cannot down the reflection that it is not an accident that we pick up the newspapers day after day and perfectly good, well-disciplined and well-organized airplanes just drop, crash, just a rash of them for the last 2 or 3 years. What does that mean? I don't know what it means, but let's play with this a little with our minds and spirits, because there's something here. I was reading a report the other day by some doctor of the mind, in which he pointed out the interesting relationship between the number of people who suffer from automobile accidents, from all sorts of accidents having to do with coordination and so forth and so on. The striking corollary between them and their inner mental and spiritual confusion. And he does a disturbing thing. He lists from his files of his, whatever it's called, his records, the number of patients who had come to him and who had been treated by him, and the number of those patients who in their history have brought with them accountings of accidents, of things that point up a kind of out of balance with the environment. Now, don't push that too far. Don't let your minds go back now to an accident that a friend of yours had the other day, and so you knew that something was wrong with that person all along, and now is the moment when it gets vindicated. But no, it makes a certain kind of sense that there is that I don't know how to say this, that the climate that surrounds us is not unrelated to the kind of climate that is inside of us. Now we see it in simple ways. Have you ever gotten up in the morning feeling depressed because you did not sleep well, or because of any one of a half a dozen things, and you go about your regular daily tasks, whatever they may be, and you discover that there's some kind of contagion between this thing inside of you, this down feeling inside of you, and the way various individuals in your environment respond to you, the way the world looks to you. Or have you not at some times had a great updraft of wonderful inner resurgence of creative spirit and feeling, and then suddenly it burst upon you that this is a beautiful world? Hasn't it happened to you? That there's something there. Therefore, it seems to be relevant to say that the most important clue to my outside world is my inside world. On one of the facades of the railway station in Washington, D.C., there is the statement, "He who seeks the wealth of the Indies must carry the wealth of the Indies with him." That's the insight that's at work there. That's what Jesus is talking about. Or that wonderful medieval mystic of Hinduism who says that I laugh when you say that a fish in the water is thirsty. Do you seek the real? Go where you will, from Benares to Mathura. If you have not found your own soul, the world is unreal to you. Now that isn't the whole story, but that is so crucially a part of the whole story that it is worth calling your attention to. That the clue to the outer is the inner. The famine that the boy experienced in the far country, he was already experiencing in his own heart. It's very simple. Now, the other thing I want to say is, he came to himself, and this follows that. He came to himself, and when he came to himself, he came to his father. But when he came to himself, he came to his father. That what that says is that when I come to the very center, the very core of myself, then I come face to face with God. That God is within me. That He is the very point of my being and my existence. Now I know that sounds commonplace, and that sounds as if it is the same thing that is being said over and over again, and perhaps it is. But when Jesus insists that the door to the son, to the father of the prodigal son, could not open until the boy opened it down inside of him, that there is that of man which is God. Not a reflection of God, not some staggering accent of God, but that which is God. So when I raise the question as to what am I know that I'm this or that or the other. But when I'm most myself, I know that there is something in me that, for lack of a better term, I will call that which is otherworldly. Otherworldly. Think about yourself for a moment. You know that you have appetites, you have a body, you have a mind. That it is so important to be as adequately expressive of myself as possible. I think that is why it is so important for young people, for instance, who are growing into life, to get a tool, to take the time to find a tool and to fashion a tool that will be vehicular for them, that will be the means by which they can provide an escalator from the churning spirit that is within them to the external world. Even though when they do the best they can, it is inadequate, it is limited. And because in the very nature of the case it is limited, it places a heavier responsibility upon making the tool the most exacting thing that the spirit can devise or the mind can create, so that when I have done my best, I know it will be less than what I wanted to express, but it will be a full and adequate manifestation of the equipment that I have. Now that's why it is so important when you're young to do the thing, to do the learning, the disciplining, to review the possibilities and select some expression of your life that will structure it. For even after you have lived to the full, doing to the limit of your power all that your wisdom and experience and judgment and technique and competency can inspire, at the end of your day, even though you may be covered with the glory of men, deep in your heart, you will know that you didn't do it. And therefore, if coupled with the feeling that when I've done my best, I have failed to reveal that which is stirring most deeply within me, how terrible it is if in addition to that, I feel that I have wasted
my time, my energy. Fail to select a tool that will express this thing that cannot be expressed, but I cannot ever be excused from the awful responsibility of trying to express it. And it is never too late to find the tool. I can always say, well, I'm too old to find the tool. I'm too limited. I am too this, too that. That is no excuse. I think I've told you, and I will be through in a minute. I think I've told you about one of the most moving stories that Rufus Jones told me when I worked with him about a South China, Maine farmer, a very illiterate farmer, who had a concern, and that concern was to establish a Quaker hostel somewhere in Palestine. And when he went to first day meeting and told the people about it, they listened in the quietness, and each one had his private smile, and then there was no assent from them, no consent of the meeting, or whatever the technical phrase is. Then he went to the quarterly meeting and told the same thing, and there he met the same quiet rejection, because the whisper in their hearts had included the fact that this man is sincere, but he is illiterate. So he went to the annual meeting, and the same thing happened. Then he went to the 5-year meeting, and the same thing happened. And at the end of that time, he sold his farm and went to Palestine and established the hostel. That's what I'm talking about. For the moment, deep within you, you come to yourself. You find waiting there your Father, who can take your limitations, all of the broken manifestations of your days or years' journeying, and brood over them with his infinite wisdom, tenderness, and knowledge of the whole meaning of existence, and place at your disposal that which will make you his son. That is yours. That's mine. And I'm grateful to God that it is so. Grateful. Grateful to God that I'm his son and he's my father.